Welcome back to the Addison Studio. We're going to be showing you today how to create a grotesque face slab mask. I drew a picture of my grotesque face for a pattern, and I'm going to cut it out. I think I'll add the ears later, so I'm not going to worry about cutting the ears out. I just need a pattern for my clay slab. Now, you're going to get a piece of clay, probably a block of clay, and you have to create a slab out of it. Well, this is a little too much just to press down to make a slab like we did for coil pots. So you're going to have to use a rolling pin. But please do not try to roll it flat from a big square like this. Okay, you do have to press it down just a little bit first so that you can start the rolling process. Otherwise, you can't roll it. So I do press it down a little bit. And then what I do is take my rolling pin, starting in the middle and rolling to the top and then the back. You want to start in the middle and roll, because if you start on an end and roll, you're going to get a big blob in the middle sometimes that you can't get rid of. I like to turn it over once in a while too, just so that it doesn't stick to my mat. So I go from the middle and roll it out in many different directions, testing to see where I have to make it bigger. You do not want to make your slab too thin because it will break. Again, about the thickness of your finger is good. My pinky finger. Okay? I think this is going to work. Doesn't matter if I have to do a little trimming of my mask. Put my pattern on. I'll move that out of the way. You can use a tool like this for cutting. You can use a tool like this for cutting. You can use whatever it takes to cut the mask out. Right, there's my mask. If I want it to have some dimension to it, we'll do that a little bit later. Okay, now I have to add the features. All right. That's okay. So if I'm going to add this, see, now I let this get a little bit harder so that I can push it down without it losing its shape, so it holds itself up. It's almost leather hard. And so since it's a little bit harder, I definitely want to score and use slip on this part. Okay, so this is going to be my nose that's sticking up from the surface. And sometimes when you do clay, you want to reinforce some pieces to make sure they stay by putting a small coil on the seam in the front and the back. This just helps secure it a little bit better. It gives it a little bit more strength. So then I would just take a tool or my finger and blend it in. This is going to give that joint some strength, otherwise they'll want to crack off sometimes. So if you have some skinny joints, reinforce them with a little coil. Okay, now that's an applique. That's applying something to the surface. That's one way you can decorate. Applique, apply, French word. You know, if you want to be cool, you can do French words. Now I am going to figure out how to do, the eyeball. Look at that. I am going to stamp. That's a very interesting eye. Now I am going to add a very strange looking eyebrow. I want to cut it to shape, some weird shape. I'd like to put some texture in it. I think I'm going to texture it after I put it on so I don't ruin the texture. So again, score, because I can't blend this in like I do coils. I do want to score and use slip and smush it on. Okay, I can blend the edges a little bit. I can use my finger this time. Blend the edges down, but I do want to push it on pretty good. And I want texture. So I'm going to go in and give this guy some bushy eyebrows. And I'll smash that down a little bit so it stays. And give him some really hairy bushy eyebrows. And I'm going to smooth where I had the slip. Smooth it. Smooth it, smooth it, smooth it, smooth it. And maybe his eye's sticking up. I don't know. Maybe it is. So if I wanted to make this little ball go on there, I could score and slip that, which I'm not going to do right now because I don't want to take that time. Let's see. If I want to make a hole for the mouth, you have to be very careful not to go too close to the edge. If you're about a 1/2 inch away from the edge with a hole, that's going to leave you a very small, thin area, bridge of clay, and that's going to want to crack very easily. So if I'm going to create a hole for the mouth, keep it in from the edges. Otherwise, it'll be very weak right here, and it's going to want to crack. All right? So I've got that. Or maybe he's got a big tongue sticking out. See, I'm going away from my picture. I think that's okay. Tongue. Now another thing I can do to decorate is I can press in and make that tongue shape. And I could make the tongue stick out and go over like that. But I'm going to score and slip. Joom, 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 joom. Slippy, slippy, slippy. And instead of having the tongue just kind of stick out here, that's going to want to crack off, I'm going to bring it down and attach it to another part of the project. But score and slip, smooth it out, do all that. One last way of decorating. I had applique, applying. I had stamping, pressing in. There's something called incising, which means you're carving into the clay. So what I would do is I'd take a tool and I can carve a design into the clay. And the only problem with this is when the clay is really wet, you get all these little clay, weird, nerdy things sticking up. You can see all those little bumps and stuff. And you don't want that because when that gets hard, after we fire it, it gets sharp. So I like to take sometimes a dull pencil or a fat tool and do a little more carving. And then I'm going to let that get a little bit harder. And when it becomes leather hard, the next day, it's a lot easier to clean up and make smooth. So this is just drawing like this isn't the only thing you do to incise. You do have to clean up your nice lines so they don't have bumps and yuckies on them. So a nice incised line is smooth. So this is not good because it's got lumps and bumps, but this isn't too bad. So we have incising, we have stamping, we have applique, applique, applique. And if you want to create some dimension, what you do is you take a little bit of paper, newspaper or paper towels, and you can put it underneath your clay project, gently pushing the surface down. And last but not least, I want you to get rid of any rough edges and do a lot of nice smoothing so that it looks beautiful. Okay, that is your grotesque mask.